Welcome to the platform. Welcome to our online premiere. We're going to be getting underway this morning with some really fantastic interviews. We have many of the CEOs joining us from our event in Boca Raton. And I think it's going to be very informative. Have with me Rick Rule, host of the conference and president founder of Rule Investment Media. Rick, how are you?
Really looking forward to this, Albert. This is just an amazing technological platform to further our investor education efforts.
Okay, I wanted to take a moment just to go over the platform and sort of do, a version of the content that you always start conferences with, which is the user manual on how to use the conference. And I think it's particularly important this time because we are in new territory here. I want to start, I guess, by talking a little bit about the platform. It is new. We are getting mails from people who are having trouble getting in. That is the unfortunate consequence of pushing into something new. But in my experience, the effort that you expend to learn it, if it's good technology, is worth it because it enhances your productivity by quite a bit. And I think with this platform, the reward for staying with it and learning how to use it is just a richer virtual conference experience where you're not really just watching a show, you're coming away with connections and information that would be really hard to get. So I guess the first thing I want to point out is your registration comes with a full archive of the Boca Raton conference with all the speakers. However, that archive is going to be available until December 31st. So you can watch that on the weekend. You can watch it next week. And if you want to, you can even watch it after Thanksgiving. That's totally up to you. Because of that, I think the real value in this event is right here on the floor, talking and getting information that no one else is going to see. In the end, thousands of people are going to see that recorded conversation or those recorded presentations. But you may be in a conversation with 6 people, and you 6 are the only ones that are going to come out with those insights. So I want to start, Rick, by having you comment on the idea of outworking your competition, because I believe when you're talking about smaller companies, niche investment areas, it is possible to outwork your competition, unlike, say, an investor in a mega cap area or somewhere where, lots of experts, lots of eyes are on those companies. I think it's possible to just gain an advantage with hard work.
Well, I think that's correct, Albert. And the beauty of this interactive format here is that we facilitate your outworking your competitors without having to bring you all to Vancouver or without having to bring you all to Boca Raton. There will be, in this presentation, presenters, I think, in 3 different continents and attendees from 3 or 4 different continents. And the idea that you have access to all that IQ in the comfort of your own home is pretty spectacular. Albert talked about outworking your competition. I believe that most speculators should have the number of stocks that most speculators have in their portfolio should correspond directly with the hours per month that you're willing to work. In other words, if you have 10 stocks in your portfolio, you should be willing to spend 10 focused hours per month, 1 hour each on each portfolio position. What I'm trying to do at this conference, this virtual conference, is give you the ability to pick and choose between a curated list of exhibitors to figure out which exhibitors, which investments are suitable for your portfolio. It's incumbent on you to get to know the exhibitors directly. We're going to bring them to you here. It is incumbent on you to go to their websites. It's incumbent on you to get on their mailing lists so that you receive their press releases. It's incumbent on you at this conference to make contacts within the company so that if you have questions about their press releases, and you should, that you can address those questions directly to people who you are already familiar with as a consequence of this conference. It's incumbent on you too, I think, in terms of outworking your competition, that you realize that there will be about 1,000 attendees at this conference, and not all of the information, not all of the paradigm, which is useful to you, is going to be hand-delivered or spoon-fed to you from the dais. To the extent that you are able to make connections with other attendees, Listen to questions that they ask that you hadn't thought of. Ask them the sort of origin of that interest. In other words, learn from attendees as well as learning from presenters, learning from exhibitors. You are very much encouraged to do that. This conference incorporates, of course, by reference, all of the recorded material from the live conference, which, if I do say so myself, was absolutely spectacular. We have some of the best big picture thinkers that could be assembled, telling you about the way the world works, not the way that CNBC or NBC thinks it works, but really the way the world works. We have wonderful analysts who will talk to you about the tactics that are useful in terms of exploiting the opportunities offered up by the way the world works. And importantly, we have, as I say, a curated list of exhibitors. At most conferences, live or virtual, the primary qualification to be an exhibitor is that you have a check that cashes. Those conference sponsors regard the exhibitors as advertisers. You, the attendees, have told us that our exhibitors are content too. So we have to curate that content. And the way we decided to curate it is that we have to know every exhibitor well enough that we own their stock directly or in accounts that we manage. The consequence of that is that not every stock is going to go up. Sadly, not every stock I buy does go up. But what you will know yourself as an attendee, pardon me, is that the conference sponsors know the exhibitors well enough, have vetted them well enough, that we are invested both in terms of our capital and our reputation with the exhibitors. This is a wonderful technological format to access the live material that we have already done, and very, very, very focused discussions today on the investment and speculative aspects of various of our sponsors, while at the same time comparing and contrasting notes with other attendees about the information that you're going to receive today.
Okay, that's great, Rick. I just want to point out that there is a chat feature where you can direct message people. We have many customer service people circulating throughout the buildings. You will notice that they have black avatars with help desk written on them, and the profile starts with CEH. So if at any time you're having trouble, please go to one of the numerous help desk areas. Feel free to message one of these people directly and they'll get you on your way. Okay, so Rick, we had a lot of fun talking with our many speakers and sponsors in Boca Raton. There's so much content, but at the same time, I felt that there was like even more unfinished business to continue with. So what I'd like to do is start with Andy Scheckman. He's the president of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. He did a great talk and I think even a better workshop in Boca Raton. But let's have him come up and Rick, you guys can have a nice one-on-one chat. Welcome, Andy. Take it away, Rick.
Good to see you guys.
Good. You can see and hear me, Andy?
Yes, sir. I see you fine. Hear you fine.
I'm always astonished when technology works, even when Albert's at the controls. Delighted to have you back, first of all. We had a great discussion, I think, or series of discussions in Boca Raton, and I think it's incumbent on attendees who are interested in physical precious metals ownerships that they take today's discussion in the context of the earlier discussions we had and refresh their memories by viewing those earlier discussions. But what I want to do today is, as Albert suggests, deal with some unfinished business. I asked you to be educational at Boca Raton to talk about various aspects of physical ownership from a sort of an academic and broad-based point of view. Now, I want to talk directly about benefit to buyer. I want to talk about what it is that Miles Franklin proposes to do for my attendees. How can you service their precious metals ownership needs better? And what sort of promises, what sort of guarantees can you give me that my attendees will be well served by Miles Franklin?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rick. I appreciate
our relationship. Being at the symposium, it's something that means a lot to me that I would never miss. In terms of my promise to you, let's first just make the statement that in 33 years and almost 7 billion in sales, we've never had a customer complaint. And I'll make darn sure that your symposium attendees and customers certainly aren't going to be the first one to ever check that box. We are one of only 27 U.S. Mint authorized resellers in the world. We have worldwide exclusives with Brinks. We're very proud of our reputation and our accolades and our relationships. But you know what? The state of Minnesota, where I left my corporate office, even though I moved to Florida a year ago, doesn't care about my relationships or my reputation. They're the only state in the United States that mandates licensing and bonding and background checks annually.
Froze.
Competition in this industry has boycotted the state of Minnesota.
For
They
they
would
need to be subservient to the Commissioner of Commerce the way that we are. So from a starting point, I do believe that we have the best reputation in the industry, and the accreditation by the U.S. Mint and the licensing and bonding in the state of Minnesota separates us, holds us to a higher standard. With that being said, my pledge to you, my promise to you is that I specifically, as the owner and president of the company, work with your clients exclusively. They're not passed off to my brokers. They're not passed off to anyone else in my organization. I do. I take it as serious as a heart attack. So anyone out there who is a Rules Symposium attendee or a prior client or whatever the relationship is, comes to me as a referral from you or your organization or this event, I specifically will work with them myself, answer all their questions, get them up to speed, and handle them as if they were family friends, the promise that I've always made to you for many years now.
Andy, there's a wide range of precious metals, bullion, and numismatic products. Tell us something about your focus. Obviously, you can't cover the waterfront. Tell us what the specific products are that you focus on and why their utility in a portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love pre-1933 numismatic coins. If I had my druthers, that's what I would own, but I haven't really recommended them in over a decade. Our focus is on getting your attendees, or any of our clients really for that matter, the biggest bang for the buck in gold and silver and platinum bullion items without being penny wise and pound foolish. I guess what I mean by that is that you can never be too flexible. You can never be too liquid. Whether you're playing poker with your buddies or driving on a crowded highway in Los Angeles or investing, you can never have too many exits or too many outs or too many options. So our focus would be on maximizing the content in really one of the 6 major mints of the world in terms of bullion items: US, Canada, Austria, Australia, South Africa, United Kingdom. Those 6 sovereign mints are synonymous with integrity, quality, liquidity, sight unseen globally. And there are a few refineries that we work with, also the Pam Swiss Mint and the Valcambi Mint. High quality, very liquid, very sought after bullion. If you're talking hot fudge sundae, we're talking a bowl of vanilla ice cream. We're not going to get you things that are esoteric or rare unless that's what you're looking for, unless you already have a portfolio of vanilla ice cream, of gold and silver bullion and platinum bullion items that are remarkably liquid anywhere in the world sight unseen. That's really our focus. The biggest bang for the buck, as many ounces as possible, because in the end, I think that's what it matters. That's what matters, is number of ounces. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we tailor in liquidity and flexibility. I guess you could just simply say 1,000 1-ounce rounds is always better than a 1,000-ounce bar, or 10 100-ounce bars is always better than a 1,000-ounce bar. And so we focus on liquidity, flexibility, but our singular focus is getting the greatest number of ounces in the end for the client in a fashion that is highly liquid, highly sought after, not esoteric, not rare, just plain vanilla bullion items. And that's really our singular focus.
How do our attendees access you? And how do our attendees begin the process of the interactive part of building a portfolio tailored to them?
Yeah, I would ask them to email me directly. This is something I don't typically do online. You're different. Your attendees are different. My personal email is Andy@MilesFranklin. Just simply mention in the subject line, Rural Symposium, and you will have my personal attention. I will personally respond with an updated inventory, pardon me, and answer any questions that are put forth to me. My promise to your attendees is that I will guarantee the best price in North America. I get my personal service, the best price, and all of their questions answered in a non-obligatory way. So that really is something that I can promise you and make it a very good experience, whether it just be answering questions or perhaps even taking it further and making a purchase. I'll make sure it's a darn good experience for all of your listeners, out of great appreciation for the relationship and for being able to present at your symposium.
Well, Andy, thank you for 30 years of interaction with our customer base. I can confirm that during the time when I was actively employed by Sprott, and we referred customers to Miles Franklin, that we never, to my knowledge, experienced one customer complaint associated with Miles Franklin. And that caused me a great deal of relief. So
Me
thank
too.
you for that.
Me too. Let me tell you, me too. And I appreciate it, Rick, from the bottom of my heart. Albert, I do. I appreciate it very, very much. And that's something that you're never going to get first. If
I have anything to do with it.
So again, thank you very much. I look forward to chatting with the attendees, and I look forward to seeing you next year, wherever it is. Even if it's not in my backyard here in Boca, wherever it is, I'll be there. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey guys, I'm actually not here to give anyone the hook, Andy. I'm just here to add to this conversation because I enjoyed your talk in Boca Raton, and I enjoyed your introduction that Rick gave, because he said something really funny but so true. He said, so many people, I guess, who are untrusting of the financial system and other institutions we have regarding savings and money, will inadvertently expose themselves to someone who's even less trustworthy than those folks in terms of a gold dealer. And we saw a major shakeout years back with a lot of untrustworthy or just incompetent dealers running into trouble. So I just want to point out here, it's really the longevity, I think, that matters too. Yes, we haven't had complaints about Miles Franklin, but you really want to work with someone who's been through all those cycles and has proven, like, decade after decade, that they're reliable. So Rick, can you talk about that a little bit? Because I thought that was really funny.
Well, it is sort of funny. My audience self-selects. They don't trust major institutions. And so many of my audience, while they don't trust major institutions, have put themselves in business with some absolutely horrific vendors, be they public penny stocks that don't spend any money on exploration and spend all the money on G&A, or dealers, bullion or coin dealers that are located at a post office box or upstairs above a gas station in a low-rent district, where they take a $20,000 check and conveniently forget to send the bullion. It's odd that people who are as intelligent and untrusting as my customers, suddenly, because somebody parrots the right gold narrative, sends a complete stranger a check without having done the proper due diligence to expect something nice like gold in return.
Yeah, well, that's happened in this
industry
over the past few years, and it's kind of been an epidemic. This is why the state of Minnesota did what they did by mandating background checks of everyone in the company annually, licensing and bonding requirements. And this is also why almost every company in America has boycotted the state of Minnesota. It's something that we embrace. I could have saved a lot of money by moving my corporation to Florida with me when I moved. Instead, I left it there because we're held to a higher standard. And it's something that I think is worthy of the cost and the effort on our behalf to make sure that we are the safest transaction in the industry. And you know what? It is a great sense of pride for me that in 33 years and almost 7 billion in gross sales, we've never had that first customer complaint. That's not to say we haven't messed up. Heaven knows I have. My wife will be the first one to tell you I do it all too often, but I always make it right with her and with our clients as well. So, I appreciate the kind words, Albert and Rick. I really, truly do. And it just goes without saying thank you. And we'll make sure to uphold that trust and those kind words, and make sure that it's always a very good experience for anyone that ever comes to us from you. That I can promise you from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, so Andy, I hope you'll stick around throughout the day to talk to the folks who want to speak with you. Your talk in the workshop in Boca Raton was extremely popular. I was busy with other things, so unfortunately I didn't get to see it, but whatever you said just kind of lit the room on fire. So I hope you'll stick around. I hope people will take advantage of the opportunity to hear you talk about all the things you talk about, and learn about Miles Franklin too, because it is a bit of a minefield out there when it comes to precious metals. So thank you, Andy, and we'll see you on the floor.
You guys be well. Thanks again.
I enjoy talking to an honest guy in the business, Rick. I was a gold dealer for a little while in my neighborhood, and I shouldn't say all, many of the companies that gave me trouble in terms of putting out the low ask, a lot of those guys are gone.
Yes.
This was like 2011-ish. There were a lot of people coming into the space, and some fairly like big recognizable names. I was surprised later to find out not only were they gone, but they were gone in some kind of a scandal.
Yeah, you'll find that some of the dealers, well, of course, they're all those type of ne'er-do-wells are fair weather friends, meaning they come into a market during a bull market. They have a big ad budget,
Right.
But they don't have any staying power.
Right.
They don't have any sustaining power. And as you rightly said, maybe the best test of durability is the fact that the issuer is in fact durable.
Yeah.
The dealers who have been around for a substantial period of time, the dealers who show up year after year after year at show after show after show, are probably the ones that you want to trust, where trust is at a premium, where you can't afford to do business with untrustworthy people.
Right. And just a tip to the people watching, a big ad budget is, in my opinion, usually a problem, because I've seen what the margins are in that business, and there's no room to hire celebrities for endorsements and lots of TV time. Advertising has to be very smart in that industry. And so the guys that are doing a lot, making a big splash on TV and whatnot, they're probably maybe charging a lot for the bullion. They're probably doing a bait and switch. They're funding those operations somehow.
Well, certainly the bait and switch from bullion products to numismatic or semi-numismatic products is an issue.
Yeah.
The liquidity in numismatic and semi-numismatic products is much lower, much higher than it is in bullion products. So very often you will see ne'er-do-well dealers offer loss leaders in the bullion product so that they can attract you to what they really want you to do, which is to buy a numismatic product. Numismatic product is great if you're interested in it, but it's not the same as bullion product. It's important that you understand what it is you want to buy, and you select a dealer who specializes in what it is that you want to buy.
Sure.
It's important that you avoid the bait and switch. It's important too that you take responsibility for your own security. Too many people who have attended our conferences over the years have thought, because of the level of regulation, that they can assign the responsibility for their safety to the federal government. We learn from things like Enron, from Bernie Madoff. We've learned that it's futile at best to consign responsibility for your investment selection to the federal government. These are the guys who, at least as institutions, can't educate the kids, lost the war in Vietnam, lost the war in Afghanistan, lost the war on poverty. Why would we expect them to be successful in terms of organizing our portfolios for us? It's important that we take responsibility for our own financial future, both in terms of accessing opportunities and avoiding risk.
Yeah, I could talk about this topic for a long time, but I want to point out that what you say about the government offering safety, at least in conventional markets, there is a chance that they will socialize the loss.
Right.
If you're in the crypto complex, so far it appears to be not the case. So it really is buyer beware there. And then in terms of numismatics, not to scare people away from numismatics, but obviously the spreads are wider. You're paying higher commissions, and some of these people will bait and switch. And Andy is a true advisor in the sense that I remember years ago when he doesn't push the numismatics, but when he sensed that the prices had shifted. There was some sort of arbitrage opportunities. I think it was in the Morgan dollars or something like that. He told people about it and said, this might be an opportunity, a rare opportunity to buy this type of unusual coin at a good price. So I think ask Andy about that. Ask him about all the people that have sort of let down their customers. There were a lot back in my day. I remember. I don't remember all the names, but there are quite a few. We got to move on though. So next up, I believe, is Miles Thompson from Laura. And again, he did a very good job at the conference. His booth was just mobbed almost the entire time. So let's get Miles up here. And he did a workshop, and you guys also had some time to talk, but let's continue the discussion. I thought it was very good.
Welcome, Miles. Delighted to have you back with us. I must say, I enjoyed having you on the boat cruise in Boca Raton and sharing spirituous beverage a little bit more than I enjoy this format. But this format offers some advantages. Neither of us have to sacrifice our carcasses to the TSA to show up in Boca. I want to point out, Miles, and to the audience, that the discussion today that we're having today incorporates very directly by reference the main stage presentation, excellent main stage presentation that you did in Boca Raton, the live interview, the Q&A between you and I that aired at Boca Raton, and of course your wonderful workshops at Boca Raton. So today I don't want to do the history of the world from the beginning of time, nor even the history of Laura from the beginning of time. What I want to talk about today is precisely what it is that you are doing for investors in 2022. What are the catalysts? What are the things that are going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months that you think will, inure directly to investors' advantage? And I want you too to describe the process by which your shareholders, your partners, can interact with the management at Lara directly.
Happy to do that. I mean, you've known me a number of years now, Rick, and you've known me to be fairly feet on the ground kind of a person. I enjoyed Boca Raton a lot, and I was very happy to be able to make quite a bullish presence there in terms of what we were saying about the company. And I think there's going to be a lot happening this year, and I think people are going to be surprised at how things unfold over the next 12 to 18 months. You've always been a fan and an advocate for the prospect generators. It's, I believe, as I think you do, the lowest and best risk management way of playing the exploration industry. And I think your success rate at that is proof of the pudding. But obviously, as a lot of these things go, they take time to gestate, shall we say. But I think if you look at Lara today, we have the discovery. We have a substantial copper discovery. So we're, to sort of mimic your words, we're now the when, not if, in terms of how we unfold. So I think what we'll see this year, we'll have obviously some more drill results on our Plan Alto discovery coming out next month. We'll see our partner Capstone exercise their option by the end of the year and take over the project. And through next year, you'll see us step out. And we've kept pretty quiet. We haven't put out a resource statement yet because we're navigating our way through land ownership and the permitting and a number of delicate issues that are part of this industry. We want to get those right. But we will put out a resource statement next year, probably by mid-year. And I think people are going to be pretty pleased when they see that. So we're subject to execution. I think we're gone in a couple of years and at substantially higher prices than you see today. And we won't be at this price for much longer, I don't believe.
So let's talk as specifically as we can about the timelines, the sort of news flow which might impact the market. First of all, from your point of view, would be the option exercise by Capstone, which would A, validate the exploration target, and B, lock in a funding proposal, which from the point of view of Lara shareholders is very advantageous. And you suggest that we might have that done by year end?
Yeah, they've already sent us the 5 million, which is their earn-in. They haven't triggered it yet because they need to cut us a check at the same time. But one way or another, that's happening between now and the end of the year. So we'll have drill results from the work we're doing right now, subject to the labs, I hope around the start of September. We plan in Q4 to step out. We're working our way along a 2-kilometer trend. We've done less than half of that. We'll take the next step northwards along the trend in Q4. So there'll be further material results as the year goes on. At some point, Capstone will appoint a manager and take over from us from the day-to-day. So all that's going to be happening this year.
And then preliminary valuation will come with a resource statement. I mean, that's sort of the way that investors who aren't as intimately familiar with the project as you might get the sense of the target size. And when might that de-risking event occur?
I'd think by middle of next year. At the moment, as I said, we're managing a series of discussions with different farmers and different permitting organizations to make sure we have a path ahead of us. So we've delayed a little bit putting out any numbers, but we'll be able to do that, I think, by mid-year. And that will give investors and analysts something they can benchmark us against other companies and realize how shockingly undervalued we are.
Subtle. Good for you. Every company is different in terms of the way that they're able to interact with investors and the way that they present information. Perhaps you could discuss for our attendees how attendees keep up to speed with the activities at LARA. What sources of information at your website or other places are available? In other words, how is it that an investor who wants to outcompete other investors can outcompete them with regards to access to information around the answering of the unanswered questions at LARA?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you touched on earlier, the first step is to go onto our website, sign up, get the news releases, and you'll see the number and the contact information for Chris McIntyre, who's my VP. He's manning the phones 24/7 and happy to expand on anything. And myself or Mike Bennell, the VPX, are happy to answer more technical questions. We're a small team and pretty user friendly, so happy to chat with people. And one of the things we love about these summer conferences with you guys is that it's a nice crowd of people. So we've made many friends over the years, and we're always happy to chat to people from the symposium.
And I guess the next order of business, Miles, is, well, you do have a discovery that is the most important potential catalyst around LARA. You have been for 2 decades practitioner of the prospect generation business model. And it's reasonable to assume that this might not be your last discovery. Can you tell us something about the focus of your generative efforts? What do you do geologically or geographically better than other people that have allowed you to have the world-class discovery in Serbia, which you sold as reservoir, and now this new discovery in Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure we're better than everybody else, but we've outlasted a lot. We try to be good at what we do, and we try to stay focused. So at the moment, we're pretty much just Brazil and Peru. In terms of what else we're doing, again, we've been through a couple of cycles now, and we've accumulated a few things. So right now, Planalto is one of 4 deposits we have on the books. We have another copper deposit in Brazil called Liberdade, which is in a lawsuit, which we've just won. So we're looking at a way to try and get that back into the fold. We've recently acquired in 2021 what looks like a world-class phosphate deposit in Peru. We're engaging with the communities and trying to get permission to sort of get back to work there. That was actually listed with the Sprott organization some years back at a 50 million valuation, and they spent another 30 on it. So we now have that. And the other fun thing about the prospect generators is you do these joint ventures, other companies come in and spend a bunch of money, and if for whatever reason they don't want to proceed, you get it back again. So we've just had the mixed blessing of having Hochschild walk away from our Carina project in Peru, which, it's a strategic decision on their part. We're in the process of reacquiring the data set and the drill core, and we'll put out a technical report on that. But I think there's a substantial precious metals deposit there, and we look forward to putting out a technical report and being able to talk a little bit more clearly about the numbers on that one too.
And I guess finally, one of the things that's always given me confidence in the prospect generator model is, from my point of view, it isn't particularly relevant whether I like each individual project that you have. What's important to me is that your partners like them, the people who are going to spend money on them. I love the fact that I don't have to commit, that I don't have to commission a sort of a consultant's statement about a project, but rather your partners spend their own money and become, in effect, my consultants for free. Tell me something about your current and past partners and why I might draw additional comfort from the fact that due diligence has been done on you by people who write you checks as opposed to charge you for the due diligence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best example is our work in Eastern Europe with Freeport-McMoRan. I mean, it was a classic earn-in agreement where they spent $3 million, made a spectacular discovery, and we ended up getting bought out for $500 million. I mean, that was a great group to work with, some real technical depth. I think we certainly were able to do things they weren't able to do in terms of building the property portfolio, and we had a very strong technical team within that group. But being partnered with Freeport, which had the vision of how it might become a deposit, and had the willingness to drill 1,000-meter holes, testing conceptual geophysical targets. It's just not the sort of thing a junior can do. So if you're able to partner up with a larger company that's engaged in what you're doing, it's definitely a win-win situation.
That was certainly a wonderful memory for me, that discovery drill hole. When a press release comes through and you can actually say to yourself, it's all over. This one's going to work. I hope for literally millions of reasons that we repeat that success in Brazil or Peru. That was truly a wonderful moment. One I've been fortunate enough, as a consequence of participating in prospect generation for 40 years, to experience repeatedly. And one that I hope at age 69 that I have the ability to experience repeatedly again before I sort of lose my mortal coil.
Gentlemen, I have to move on, but before I let you go, Miles, before I let you go, I want to point out that people are asking questions in the Q&A tab. Rick, I didn't even mention it, but you give people a platform, they start to figure out over time. Lots of questions in there for Andy. I'm sure there'll be some for Miles. Andy's already in there answering. So please, when you go back to the ready room, Miles, take a look at that Q&A chat. Take a look at the chat. People may be asking questions of you there. And then when we go back into conversation mode, I encourage everyone to try to get to the lower table or seek out Miles directly. Thank you very much, Miles.
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the next speaker is Randy Smallwood. Just kidding. I screwed up last time. I was supposed to bring Rudy on, and I brought Miles on, so I just wanted to give the green room another heart attack. Sorry about that. It is Rudy Franck of Seabridge, a good friend of yours. He delivered just a fantastic talk. Every time Rudy talks, I learn something, not only about his company, but about the way financing works in this business. And people who can get creative with the financing really end up doing very well for their shareholders. So guys, welcome Rudy. Take it away, Rick.
Rudy, delighted to have you back virtually. It was, of course, fun to interact with you physically, fun in particular to be able to share spirituous beverage with you. And I look forward to doing that in the future. Rudy, I want to begin by saying to you and to our audience that this discussion now is a more focused extension of the discussion that we had live in Boca Raton. Pardon me. And those discussions are available and should be viewed by all of the viewers. You did a great general session presentation. I thought the interview that you and I did coming into Boca Raton was particularly useful, and your workshop was extremely popular. So I want you to answer the questions that I ask you now in the context of those, and I want every attendee to review those. Where I want to go today, Rudy, is you did a great job summarizing in a very broad sense the opportunity in front of people at the live conference, which is of course available. What I want you to talk about now is the timelines that you see. I want you to talk about how you answer the unanswered questions around adding value to the projects, and what sort of progress in terms of answering unanswered questions your shareholders might look forward to, be it early works construction, be it community engagement, be it exploration, be it bankable feasibility study. Tell me the timeline that you expect in terms of major transitions for the project.
Rick, thanks, and happy to be back. And let me tackle some of those here. So as you know, we formed the company to create optionality and leverage to the gold price. We've now done that for 23 years, growing ounces in the ground faster than shares outstanding. I fully appreciate that an ounce in your pocket is worth a lot more than an ounce in the ground. So now comes the transition. Now that we've further de-risked our large KSM project in northern British Columbia, with just announcing an updated preliminary feasibility study, as well as an additional mine plan that adds another 39 years on top of the 33 years in our pre-feasibility study. Now is the time to get a partner in to build and operate this mine in a joint venture. We believe that the study we just did with the updated pre-feasibility really significantly de-risks the asset. All of our previous mine plans focused on a combination of open pit and underground mines, where the underground mines needed to start development in the first 10 years, and they would have been large underground block cave mines. There's very few companies on the planet that actually can do block cave mining successfully. So by doing the updated pre-feas, by bringing in the Snowfield deposit that we purchased from Pretium in late 2020, we now show a mine plan that's 33 years open pit only. But not only that, we show a mine plan where the net present value has increased from 1.5 billion to 7.9 billion, where the payback period has been essentially cut in half to just about 3 years on a 33-year mine plan. A project, the IRR has now more than doubled. So we believe that with this mine plan going forward, we can finally get that transaction done with a major mining company. Our goal in a joint venture is to hang on to as much of the project as we can, but try to minimize our capital exposure towards the large capital that's going to be required to build this mine. Further de-risking is also being done thanks to the Sprout organization and your involvement at the time. We secured $225 million US in funding from Sprout and Ontario Teachers Pension Plan that's now allowing us to go in and actually start site capture activities. We're building roads, we're building bridges, we're building camps, we're tying into the grid system, which is also a further de-risking for the project.
What do you see in terms of timelines? And by the way, I appreciate the fact that what you're doing now is taking control of the things that you can control while you wait for a joint venture partner. I don't know that all investors are cognizant of the incredible de-risking that's going on in terms of community relations and also in terms of early work. But what I want is, what I want in this discussion is a sense of what your shareholders and partners can look forward to in terms of you advancing the project with the variables that are under your own control.
Yeah, so we recognize that a project the scale of KSM, we have a very limited group of partners that are capable of building and operating a mine this size. There's maybe 7 or 8 companies in the world that can do that. We've engaged on and off over the years with all of these companies. In fact, we've received proposals from a number of them over the past several years. Just not the right deal yet. I think now with the mine plan we have in front of us and the de-risking we've done, now is the time to get a deal done. You're also looking at a time when the gold industry is running out of reserves and the copper miners need new projects because of the green energy initiatives that's going to have a huge increase in demand going forward. I always like to say terms trump timing. But my expectation is that within the next 12 months or sooner that we will have a partner in place advancing the project here to a construction decision. And we think that will be a major further de-risking of the asset, having that partner stand up, working side by side with us to move this to a construction decision. And that's our goal in terms of timing.
Obviously, there's zero doubt that to the extent that you're able to bring in a major partner in the next 12 months, that investors wouldn't be able to get a very clear sense of the current value and the optionality value from the terms of the partnership. And that would be, in terms of information, a major, major de-risking event. So we look forward to that. You mentioned the phrase optionality, Rudy, and I want, because I think that's one of the unique selling points of Seabridge, I want you to talk something about the reserve and resources. And as you point out, the reserve and resources per share. And while you can't make too many forward-looking statements, talk to people about the upside inherent in Seabridge if we were to see the type of gold, silver, and copper prices in the future that many of us think are more likely than not.
Great question. It all comes back to the decision we made at the beginning of Seabridge in 1999, which was to build optionality by growing ounces of gold in the ground faster than shares outstanding. And over the past 23 years now, we've delivered on that. In fact, if you look at our resource base today, after 23 years, we only have 80 million shares outstanding, but we have over 170 million ounces of gold in all resource categories, over 54 billion pounds of copper, and over 800 million ounces of silver. If you actually add that up in terms of in situ metal value, it turns out to be over $6,000 per share at today's metal prices. And if you look at our track record over the past 23 years, our shares have outperformed the gold price by about 10 to 1. Since we started the company, gold is up about 500%. Our share price is up over 5,000%, significantly outperforming not only the gold price, but most of the gold companies in our space. And very few of them actually go back that far for 23 years. So I think the bottom line is, the lesson that I take away from this is, if you believe in higher gold prices or higher copper prices, we have a 24-year track record of outperforming both those metal prices and other equities. And if the copper price is going up or the gold price is going up, owning a share of Seabridge may make a lot of sense, as giving you that kick that you need from higher prices.
One of the important attributes that I think that Seabridge exhibits has been your ongoing efforts at developing, in effect, a partnership with your host communities, with the Indigenous bands of Northern British Columbia. I think that's at once the right thing to do. I feel happy about that as a shareholder, because I think you're doing the right thing. I also think that, given the important role that Indigenous communities play in the politics of Northern British Columbia, that you have to do it. But I'd like you to discuss a little bit about the de-risking that occurs as a consequence of good relationships with the host communities, which you've worked 20 years to establish.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is, without the support of the local Indigenous groups there, you're not going to get your project advanced much. You probably run into brick walls at the permitting phase. So before we even went to the regulators with the KSM project to start the environmental assessment process, we reached out and met with all the 5 Indigenous groups we have in the area. The 2 important ones are the Tahltan Nation and the Niska Nation. We now have full impact benefit agreements in place with both of those groups. And in fact, the work we're doing now at site in terms of road construction, camp construction, building fish compensation areas, those contracts are being awarded to groups, to these 2 groups. So it's not only building relationship, but it's then demonstrating that you can actually work together effectively on a project with benefits flowing to both sides. And that is critical, in my view, in getting projects advanced in British Columbia and elsewhere in Canada as well.
Rudy, I've busted my attendees' chops about the fact that they need to outcompete other investors in terms of knowledge about their investments. What tools are available to investors to learn more about Seabridge? How and who do they access in the company to get a more full understanding, as an example, of your regulatory filings, of the process that you're making with regards to joint venture partners, and simple things like understanding the nuance in press releases? How do my attendees outcompete other investors in terms of critical and crucial knowledge around Seabridge?
I think a big part of it, Chris, is Rick, is spending time on our website. I mean, we have the general corporate website, seabridgegold.com, but we also have a KSM website that has a lot more of the technical and detailed information in terms of the permits we have, the environmental approvals, our dealings with the First Nations. So I would say spending some time first at both the Seabridge website and the KSM website is a good way to get started. And then we also have a portal to come in with questions. And I typically am the person that answers those questions as questions come in. I also play the role not only as CEO, but a Chief Investor Relations Officer as well.
Oh, that's a wonderful answer. Ask questions of the boss. I've noticed myself that I probably look at 50 press releases a day from companies that I've invested in or that I'd like to invest in. And very often there is nuance in the press release that I can get from talking to the CEO. I'm not asking you to disclose material non-public information. I'm just asking you to fill out the press release a little bit so that I can understand the importance of certain aspects of it. And I respect and admire the fact that you are willing to add yourself nuance to people's questions, whether they're about KSM, whether they're about your regulatory filings, whether they're about your balance sheet, your income statement, or in fact, strategic initiatives. So I look forward to my attendees having the ability to access Rudy Frank to understand more about the investment attributes of Seabridge.
Thank you, Rick.
Great discussion, guys. Rudy, I enjoyed your presentation in Boca Raton, and I was very interested to learn about the financing that you did with Sprott on the Silver Stream, and it sounds like you did a marvelous job, but my only concern was that you may have had Rick Rule on the other side of the table negotiating for Sprott. That always gives me pause. If that was the case, congratulations on getting a great deal for your shareholders.
Well,
Just for the record, I absented myself from that decision.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I believe it's one of those deals that's truly a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Thank you, Rudy. Please, Rudy, there may be questions for you in the Q&A section, in the chat section. I encourage you to stick around. There's folks that want to talk to you. So as we go into conversation mode here, everyone, please mingle, meet your fellow attendees, meet these experts that we've brought in, and we will be back a little bit later with more live presentations. All right, thank you.